and welcome back to the crypt. Please let me know in the comments what your top albums of the year were. I'm always interested in hearing what other people have been getting into and what really has stood out to everyone, because it's going to be different for every single person. So please let me know in the comments below any musical releases that really stood out to you this year as being your favorite. So I'm not going to pretend like I've been on top of every single musical release from the genres that I enjoy, or even from the bands and musical artists that I enjoy. But that said, from what I was able to keep up with, there were definitely 3 standouts that made it to the very top of my list. Particularly, these are whole albums, so there were artists that released singles or, you know, short, what is it called, EPs, but my top 3 were actual full-length albums, so that's number 1. Other artists that had releases I really enjoyed this year were Scary Blak, Scary Blak released 2 singles that I really enjoyed. My favorite, hands down, was Unlove. I actually reacted to that one, and you can watch that reaction here. It made me cry. It's a very sad song, but a very interesting song. Another band that released music that I enjoyed this year was Pretty Frankenstein. They did have several releases this year. I was also lucky enough to get to interview Gray Star of Pretty Frankenstein.
That's definitely a huge influence, like the death rock, dark wave, and post-punk, and all the like goth stuff I grew up with.
And you can watch that interview here as well. I'll put all the links to these videos in the description so you can also check them out after this video. But yeah, Pretty Frankenstein is definitely a new to be band. I discovered them this year thanks to meeting Gray Star on TikTok. I really appreciate the diversity that they bring to their music. They don't really box themselves into any sort of specific category, and I really like that. And so that's one of the reasons I really enjoy their music. Blak Sunday also released an album this year, which is a big deal. It was released on Halloween, so I definitely recommend checking that out. We'll for sure be doing a deeper dive on that in the near future. In the coming months. But in the meantime, highly recommend going and checking that out yourself. Also, go follow Juan Blak on YouTube. Juan Blak is the mastermind behind Blak Sunday and also posts a lot of hilarious videos, so definitely go subscribe to Juan. At the very beginning of the year, one of my first favorite early releases was the single I Am the Void by Entheos. I absolutely loved that song when it came out. As far as the full album, to be honest, I wish I could say I was more familiar with it. That's definitely still on my to-do list, but I Am the Void by Entheos definitely deserves a mention because I absolutely love it. AngelMaker, who released my top album of the year last year, released some singles this year as well. Oh my gosh. And the Ogre Packet Slammers, they did finally release something else. New Times, Old Adventures was the name of the single. And this was the first time they had released anything original since 2019. In 2021, they did release a single, but that was a cover of a Chelsea Grin song. I actually really like their version of that song, by the way. I'm not gonna pretend that I was like a huge Chelsea Grin fan, but of course I checked out all the versions of that song that I could find, and I actually prefer the Ogre Packet Slammers version. It's a little bit sped up, but yet there's something about it that is just more sonically pleasing to me. So anyway, that said, they released a new single this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing if they're going to release more in 2024. Okay, now that we've talked about some other releases of the year, my top 3 albums. So to be honest, 3rd and 2nd place were tied. So I can't really say like, oh, this album was in 3rd, this album was in 2nd place. It's really hard because there was like number 1, which was very obvious. And then for the other 2 albums that made it to my top 3, which were like tied. So in no particular order, coming in at number 3/2 is Unsightly Visitations by Tragic Blak.
in all in black. I can hear them cry tearfully. They ask, am I coming back?
I absolutely loved this whole album. I listened to it on loop so many times, and I personally think that they just keep getting better and better with time. Like, there are some bands that, like, after a while you just can't really listen to them anymore, or it's not the same, but Tragic Blak is definitely one of those bands that they just keep getting better and they continue to evolve their sound. So Tragic Blak is a death rock band from Salt Lake City, Utah, and they've always really found a way to keep their sound death rock while experimenting in different albums. Like, albums they've had throughout the year have a slightly different vibe and sound, some being more dancey, some being a little bit more electronic, some being more like raw and stripped down. And then this album, I really think they took all of the best elements from their previous albums and kind of brought them together for this album, Unsightly Visitations, and kind of at the same time going back to that traditional death rock sound. Like, it's just a very solid death rock album. The subject matters for this album were also really interesting to me and is one of the main reasons that it's my favorite album. I reacted to the song Nothing Helps here in this video, which is a song that spoke so directly to me at the time that I heard it, because I was going through like a lot of mental health stuff.
Unstitched and relocated, fractured and isolated. Fuck, I'm dead, tasting the burning bullet inside my head.
At the beginning of the album, kind of addressing that sometimes nothing helps, and sometimes we're just self-sabotaging, to going into more positive, uplifting themes throughout the album.
I am not a weak man. There's power in my bloodline. Fate has something in store for me. Requires strength and to win the fight. I can see my path now. I have opened my eyes, and I know I'll have to will it so. 'Cause this is not my time.
And then of course, you can kind of tell that there are different subject matters. One of the songs is about a friend that had passed away. Another song is about, it seems to be like aliens or otherworldly visitations, but definitely just an interesting album overall. Really connected to it emotionally, but then also musically it was just very fun and interesting, but also just really good traditional death rock. So let me know if you heard this album and what you thought of it. Coming in at number 2/3 as well, tied with Unsightly Visitations by Tragic Blak, is a debut album from a band that I discovered just last year, and they had just started releasing music last year. Instantly I got hooked. I instantly got hooked to their humor.
Welcome back to Empty Graves TV. The world is ending.
Like, there was like a mix-up when the song was being written.
Yeah, I wrote maybe like, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, totally.
Their serious themes of addressing and commenting on social problems. Empty Graves! So we have the album, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna butcher this name. It's either Virulent, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. This is the album cover. Now, when I first heard this album, I was shocked because I thought that they were gonna have some of the singles that they had been releasing throughout 2022 on this album, but they didn't. Every single song was brand new. And so that was a pleasant surprise. Every song was a banger. Like, that's something that I've come to expect from these guys at this point, is just like so many bangers. standout song to me was definitely Dog Pills, which was also a single that they had released with a music video, and I completely understand why this was one of their singles off the album. I literally can't listen to the song without starting to feel completely hyped up. Like, if I'm pissed off and I listen to the song, it's helpful. Or if I'm like low energy and I listen to the song, it's helpful. But then also the commentary. This song is about the messed up medical or quote-unquote healthcare system in the US.
Okay.
Social commentary is always so on point, and they're also really fun. And to see what I mean, all you have to do is check out that music video to see what I'm talking about. They're addressing a very serious issue, but the music video is just nothing but fun. And that's pretty much a theme for them. You could say the same for their single that they released last year called Spitshine. They were addressing issues of war and the negative impacts war has on the soldiers actually and the veterans, and how people are recruited from a very young age. Then the music video is very fun. So if that's up your alley, social commentary and fun, definitely check them out. Last but not least, when I heard that this band was releasing an album this year, I already knew it was going to be my #1 album. I mean, there was always a chance that it wasn't going to be, but I was like 99.999% sure it was going to be my top album of the year, and it was. So we have Terracite by Cattle Decapitation. I could really go on and on about this album. I actually am gonna go on and on about this album and make a totally separate video because this album deserves that. But just in a nutshell, why I love this album, why it's the #1 album of the year for me. Well, #1, Cattle Decapitation is my favorite band, so there's that. But you know, similar to what I said about Tragic Blak, Cattle Decapitation is one of those bands that just keeps getting better with time. I don't want to say that's hard to do, but there are just a lot of bands out there that don't seem to accomplish that, you know, and that's not me trying to like throw hate or shade at anyone. I think it's great when anybody's expressing themselves musically, but there's just some bands that evolve with the times. Again, similar to what I said about Tragic Blak, Cattle Decapitation has sort of maintained a sound of their own while continuing to evolve it at the same time, which again is kind of amazing. Travis Ryan is also my favorite vocalist, so they have that going for them. The things that he does vocally, the range that he has, from the low guttural growls to the weird piercing shrieks and tunnel throat and everything that he's done, I want to say he was one of the original people to do this. Let me know in the comments if you know of someone who did the tunnel throat and all the crazy movements with the tongue to produce different sounds. If you know of anyone who did it before Travis Ryan, let me know. He's kind of been ahead of his time. And then of course, a similar reason to why I love Empty Graves, the social commentary from Cattle Decapitation is just pretty much unmatched. And then the last reason that I love this album is because Cattle Decapitation, they're not melodic death metal, but they're extremely melodic. And that's one of the things that I've really liked about them ever since Humanure, actually. I think Humanure had some pretty melodic moments in it, particularly like the intro and the first song. And then of course they just kind of kept expanding and getting better at doing that. Like Regret in the Grave, are you kidding me? From the Harvest Floor, such an amazing song with such a haunting melody. They really had a lot of moments like that in this album. And then of course there's Just Another Body, where Travis Ryan did clean vocals for a large stretch of the end of the song. Of course, that's a very emotional song, but those are pretty much the main reasons why I love Terrasite. I just saw Cattle Decapitation live. That was amazing. Got this new shirt. But yeah, once again, let me know what you thought of these albums if you checked them out, or what your favorite releases of the year were. Once Spotify Wrapped comes out, we will see the truth of what I listen to the most. I know all of these bands that I just listed are going to be up there, but we will see once that comes out in a few weeks. Consciously, these were my favorites of the year. So again, let me know what your favorites were. Take care of yourselves because it is the most important thing, and I will see you in the next video.